Hello, my name is J. Gary Campbell.
Okay, now, no, you gotta switch sides. Yeah, over that shoulder. Good. Okay, that's good. Anytime you're ready.
You don't have to answer these. What's your grandfather's name? Where is he from? Did he attend any school? Where? What tribe is he?
Curtis, Mr. Bill,
Okay, I'm going to be asking you several questions, and please give me your answer fully to extent. Do you see yourself as a very attractive person? Why? And give me some qualities.
Yes, I'm short. I have long hair. I'm sort of funny.
Okay, thank you. Next question, number 2. What are your main turnoffs in this world?
Geeks. And let's see. Probably sometimes guys when they're real jerks.
Okay, very good. Number 3, what do you idolize the most, and who do you idolize most in your life at this present moment?
Reporters like you.
I knew you was going to say that. But why though? Why is this such a appeal to you?
Because your shirt's unbuttoned a little bit and you wear tight jeans.
Okay, that's good enough. Number 4, how will your husband look like after your honeymoon?
Drained. Tired, maybe full of a little bit of energy to keep going.
Well, number 5, in rock and roll music, you know, they have some really explicit people. Name some of their songs. Give me about 3 listings. Just name me a few songs, not lyrics, just name me a few songs in rock and roll music.
I don't know any rock and roll.
Back in the 60s?
Janis Joplin, Mercedes-Benz, I guess. That isn't too explicit.
Them are some pretty wild groups. That's some pretty wild music there.
Yes, it is.
On the last and final question, where do you get your hairstyle done?
Over in Pocahontas Hall.
Pocahontas, why? Is it cheap over there?
It's free.
It really looks nice, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel.
Who do you think should run for president in 1988? Mm-hmm. Who is your favorite actor and why? What do you think life would be like under Bill Curtis's administration? If Bill Curtis quit his job, what position do you think he would qualify for? Thank you.
Ready? This fit right here. Okay, why are you attending Haskell? What is your idea of fun? Describe your moral standards.
Make it good because we're recording.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to give us a high sign. Okay. Hello, Frank.
Greetings from sunny California.
It's Frank Wieslow as the president chapter of the Southern California group, alumni. And what tribe are you, Frank?
I'm a Menominee, originally from Wisconsin, but I moved out to California under the BIA relocation in 1961, and I've been there ever since.
So what kind of work did you do when you were in California?
Well, I'm still in printing, which is indicative of what Haskell can do for a person, because when I first came to Haskell, I wanted to be an auto mechanic. But when they got down to the W's and it says, hey, we sold, everything's closed, you go to the print shop. And I've been in printing ever since.
So you sorry?
No, it feeds me.
So what are you involved in now, Frank?
Well, in the past several years, I've become very aware of Indian education and the lack of Indian education. So I have volunteered with the Long Beach Unified School District. I help in their project, which is called EONA, it's Educational Opportunities for Native Americans. We identify all students in our school district who are registered American Indians, and our primary purpose is to get these Indians through high school and then possibly interested in higher education. Another thing we do is we provide people with very extensive backgrounds in the Indian arts and crafts. We are trying to teach our young children beadwork, making various projects such as basket weaving, and we have one gentleman who used to attend Haskell. Now he's teaching our children how to dance, northern style, southern style. He has quite a background in it, and it's interesting to note that a lot of the younger children, say 10 years and younger, are very interested in this. And after you get their interest up, they really take a great deal of pride in what they do and their background. So I'm very encouraged by it. I know that getting Indians through high school is a very difficult task, because we are constantly fighting the stereotype Indian who is drunk, doesn't care about anything, only wants to live on a reservation, get Indian aid, commodities. But really and truly what we have to do is educate our children so that they can enter the mainstream of American life and be bona fide, tax-paying citizens. And that's what I'd like to see.
That's a very good objective. When you were at Haskell, some of your friends, and what was the exciting point of the week or the year?
We
or
had, you caught me at a good point there. Now, when I attended Haskell, I was very fortunate in that the school year 1953-54, I was a member of a football team and a track team, and we were undefeated. We won all our football games, and we won the state track meet. We were undefeated. We had probably the greatest group of high school Indian athletes, with a couple of real good superstars. John Edwards, Ed Postoke, two of the tremendous football players, trackmen. In the football area, they were recognized by the state of Kansas as the two most valuable backs in the state in 1953. And with a school enrollment of 350 students, we were ranked number 10 in the state. And that's with Coffeyville, Lawrence, Leavenworth, Highland Park, Shawnee Mission, Wyandotte, all the big schools that had thousands of students. And we had 350 high school students, half of which we assume is boys. And out of that group, we had some tremendous athletes from all over the United States. Arlie Pierce, Alan Nephew from New York State, Milford Shango from New York State, Edwards Postoke from Oklahoma, me from Wisconsin, Reginald House from Wisconsin, just all over the United States, and we just gathered here, and Tony Coffin, bless his soul, he did things with us that we didn't think we could do, because traditionally Haskell fielded a smaller football team than the teams we played. We were consistently outweighed. They were bigger, they were taller, but they weren't faster. And we had an undefeated football team that year, and in my opinion, that was the greatest gathering. Now, Haskell is famous for many great athletes down through the years. Billy Mills comes to mind. Billy Mills was a year after me. He's a graduate 1957. Rabbit Weller, John Levi, we've had some great athletes.
Thorpe.
Thorpe was here for a short time. But we had two great athletes, John Edwards and Ed Postoke, and we had a supporting cast that was really good. Each person by himself was a very good athlete. And then when you took them all together and added a couple of superstars, we were, in my opinion, great. Probably the greatest gathering of Haskell high school students in history. And I will always hold that dear to my heart.
That's good. Now you told about your sporting life.
Mhm.
Tell about your other sporting fun life
Oh.
you had here at Haskell.
Haskell takes individuals from all over the United States, from different tribes, different cultures, puts them together, and in effect forces individuals to work together with other people. Now, when I came to Haskell, they put me in a room with three other guys I had never seen before in my life. One was from South Dakota, one was from Oklahoma. And, you had to learn to work together. You had to do that because you had to keep your room clean. You had to get to school on time. You had to have clean clothes. You had to take showers. You could not live in your own little world. You had to get along with other people. And to me, that is probably one of the greatest assets Haskell has given me. It's taught me to work with other people, not to be the individual. That's fine and dandy, but really and truly, for anybody to work in society, you have to get along with people. And I think Haskell has done that to a great degree. Another part of Haskell is the social life. Now, I remember when I first came to Haskell, I was 14 years old, fresh off the reservation. I didn't know very much about social etiquette or social interaction with girls. And when I came to Haskell, I really discovered girls. Oh, my heavens. In particular, I remember one gal. She was in my class, and she's Otto from Oklahoma. And when I met her, I thought she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen in my life. Oh, talk about struck. You can't believe it. When she would talk to me, it would just like bells would be ringing, and it was really fantastic. My first great love. And I finally worked up the courage one day to ask her to go to a movie. When we had movies over at the auditorium, 10 cents or something like that. So I asked her, I said, would you go to the movie with me on Sunday? And she says, no, Franklin, I can't. And I was totally devastated. Then she says, but I'll take a rain check if you don't mind. I said, yeah, sure, great, okay. So she trots down in the Winona Hall. I run all the way back to Tinker Hall, run into my room, grab my roommate by the collar, and I says, Johnson, what's a rain check? If she wanted a rain check, she could have anything she wanted. But,
Did you meet your wife here?
No, I met my wife in California. But it was an experience. Everybody remembers their first teenage crush, I guess. I don't know if I'd ever
Where'd
want
Cindy
to
go?
mention her name, but but that was years ago. It was indicative of what Haskell can do for a person.
Who were some of your instructors when you was here?
Oh, instructors. Winnie Macon, mathematics.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I remember.
heavens.
Miss
She,
Duncan.
her policy was the first day of school in her class, she would have everybody write down their name, their tribe, and what state they're from. And she would make everybody stand up and say, okay, what's your name, your tribe, and where you from? And we went down the line, come to me, and I said, Franklin Wiesel, Menominee from Wisconsin. She looked at me real hard and she said, is your dad Mitchell? I said, yeah. She said, I taught him. And I thought, oh my God. But some of the other teachers we had, Margaret Cosgrove, I think every Haskell boy who took English, which I think was everyone, they all fell in love with Margaret Cosgrove.
Oh, yes.
She
was
dressed
nice.
so nice. She just carried herself like the fantastic lady she was.
Frank brought his, are you going to come up and tape? Frank brought his little daughter, Cynthia. Come on up, Cynthia, and be on television. Come here.
High school principal, or not a high school principal, they're elementary school principal. She's in the 4th grade. Yes. Okay. Now Cindy is in the Long Beach Unified School District, and she is the only American Indian in her class. Now, Cindy is a registered American Indian, and when she graduates from high school, she will be eligible to apply for admission to Haskell. Now, in trying to advertise or recruit for Haskell, we do many things. But if we can reach out to our children and instill in them the idea that they can go on to higher education beyond high school, then we should perhaps try to do this with very young children. I don't think it hurts. How do you like the campus here in Haskell?
It's very big.
Yes, it is. It's quite big. I think it's about 800 acres, as I recall. We have many buildings. How did you get out here?
I flew.
You flew in the airplane. And as I recall, something happened when we landed in Kansas City, right? What was that? What was all the black clouds about?
Oh, yeah. When we were coming down from a flight, we rented a car, and we turned on the radio, and it said Kansas City is going to be out for a tornado watch.
Right, a tornado watch. So we got the heck out of there, didn't we? We sure did. We came to Haskell, and I don't believe Cindy has seen so many Indians in one place at one time, right?
Right.
How do the students react? They talk to you, they say hello? Or,
Some of them did.
well, that's good. Did you meet some Indians from your own tribe?
Yeah.
You met some Menominees, some Sioux,
Some creeks.
and some Creeks. Oh, well, you're part Creek, right?
Yeah.
And what did some of these people try to do?
Teach me words.
Teach you words in Creek language.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. Now, some of the things that we do at Haskell, we have a TV studio.
Yes.
We have a theater production called
Thunderbird Theater.
Thunderbird Theater, right. We have a large student union, a large dining hall, serves very good meals, all very modern, and a tremendous library, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And then we have a stadium that was built entirely with donations from American Indians. Was not built with any taxpayer money. But how do you like Haskell?
I like it a lot, and it's a big place and so many Indians.
Hmm. And a lot of them know your father, right? Okay, now what else can we talk about that would...
Oh, we haven't mentioned about our family.
Our family. Yeah, we had 2 boys, 2 girls. Cynthia is the youngest at 9 years. Hopefully the older children will see their way to coming to Haskell. But then that's up to them. I don't know what else we can talk about right now.
The kid rolls up there, you can...
Okay,
Why don't you guys start asking questions?
well, let's give them a chance, okay? Okay.
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, we have a...
Ready, dear? Here's Milton Kidwell from Oklahoma. And tell me what year you was here, Milton.
I came here in 1936 through 1938 school years.
Was that commercial or?
Commercial.
And who was some of your instructors when you was here, Milton?
The direct instructors, Mrs. Baker, Mrs. Sullivan, Miss Finnerty, Grace Carter, and trying to think who the fellow was. I started out in bookkeeping under Skelton, Maurice Z. Skelton, who later became an advisor after I left here.
And did you meet your wife here?
I met
Future
my
wife.
wife here.
Can you tell me the romantic relationship there on
Well,
campus?
as I had told
You
you,
wait outside of
before.
Winona Hall?
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. He would go to the alternate week dances. I could invite her one week, she could invite me the next week. And she was my only girl that second year. See, I was here 1 year before she was. And I went to the dances with quite a number of the girls.
And that's Martha.
Martha St. Clair.
And she was
Beautiful little Chippewa girl
from where?
from Ponsford, Minnesota, on the White Earth Reservation.
And she's very shy because we can't get her up here,
shy.
right?
That's right. She's very shy. She always says, "You do the talking," but then she generally wants to tell me what to say.
Well, that's good. Good advice.
Sometimes I listen. Sometimes I
advice.
listen.
So what was some of the fun things you did, Milton?
Oh, fun things. Everything was fun to me. I started out for football, but then I got injured and had to stop that, so that kind of cut my sporting career to an end. Played intramural basketball, some intramural track, but also worked in the campus shack.
Oh, yes,
Those
good old
old-timers,
shack.
all the old-timers would know that the shack was the campus cafe at the time. And working there and going to school didn't have a whole lot of time to devote to other activities, but I like to go to the dances.
Did you go to any of the dance classes that they had?
Oh,
here?
yes, especially the matinee classes. Great time to meet people, dance and romance. And
Yes, and didn't they have big Halloween parties when you was
big
here?
Halloween parties. I always remember one that was down in Pocahontas Hall, where
In
they
the
built a
basement.
tunnel, and then you had to go through the tunnel, crawl through the window into the basement, and all kinds of spooky things going on. And some things happened that I don't want to even talk about.
How has the campus changed since you were here?
It's changed tremendously, and I know that we must have progress, but it still kind of hurts me when I walk on this campus and don't see those old limestone ivy-covered buildings. They were beautiful.
Winona Hall, Curtis
Yeah.
Hall,
Yes. indeed.
Keokuk, and Osceola.
Of course, all the modern refinements and everything, the going thing, but it was home to me then, and I loved it, and I miss them.
We had the old standard typewriters. Now they have these computerized ones.
Computerized, electronics, this, that, and the other. There's so much more to be learned here than there was in our time.
It's true.
But I've often said, going through the commercial school, I would say the education I got in the commercial school here at Haskell could stack up against any 4-year business administration degree in the country.
That's
The
true.
reason I say that, the first 2 years that are devoted to the humanities and the broadening subjects, and then get down to your major, everything was business during those 2 years. And we covered everything thoroughly. When I went out into the working field, I based my opinion on the fact that I had to train and help train so many business degrees out of the universities that
Where did you work all your working years?
all my working years, the first 7 years was in the Indian Department, and about the last 20 years was with the Veterans Administration. I worked in only 3 different places. I left here and went to the Cheyenne Arapaho Agency at Concho out of El Reno, Oklahoma. Stayed there from the 1st of July until the middle of October, and then I went to the Fort Belknap Agency in Harlem, Montana, Grove on Assiniboine tribes. Stayed there about 10 months, and then July the 13th, 1939, I came back to Muskogee, Oklahoma, with what was then called the Indian Service, and it's now the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The terminology has changed. Martha, being a year behind me in school, had gone to work for the summer of '39 at the St. Louis warehouse, the Indian warehouse, which was a temporary position for a lot of students. And when her job terminated in the fall, she came down to Muskogee to visit me and was going to go back to Minnesota, but
You took care of that little trip.
out-talked her and got her to stay in Muskogee, and it's been our home ever since. We will have been married 49 years, the 30th of October.
Well, congratulations. So how many children do you have?
We have 3 children, a rather unusual family. Our oldest child is 46, and there's 7 years between each of the 3 children. Always said it wasn't planned that way, it just happened that way. I never realized what a blessing it was until it came time for college age.
Yes.
And when I see some of these people with 2 or 3 kids in college at the same time, I don't know how they do it.
So what are they doing? What are they doing now?
The older daughter is Associate Dean in the Graduate School at the University of California, Berkeley. And incidentally, when the Haskell Junior College opened its facilities here, she came here as head of the Social Science Department. She had her doctorate degree at the time and was working at the University of Washington when she was recruited here. She also taught at the University of Minnesota. She's taught guest teaching at, I can never remember whether it's Harvard or Dartmouth. Dartmouth, yeah, Dartmouth.
That comes from the outer voice.
Yeah, the outer voice, the voice of experience, the knowledge. The middle child, also a daughter, is a librarian at Catholic Prep School, Cassia Hall in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where she has 2 boys enrolled. The oldest will be a senior this fall, and I've been making sly hints and everything that I thought maybe he should come to Haskell. I hope we can prevail upon him to do so. He's an excellent athlete, excellent scholar, and I think he would fit in well here.
Do you have any great-grandchildren?
No, I've only gotten down to 2 of the children now. We have a son.
Oh.
The third one is the son that we waited for. We do have 3, no, we have 4 now. 4 grandchildren. We have 3 grandsons, and the 4th of October we got our first granddaughter. Oh, she is a doll.
The pride and joy.
Yes, indeed. Victoria Marie.
Congratulations for that.
And the whole family is just terribly excited about that child.
When you was at Haskell back in the 30s, we used to have 2 dining rooms, upper and lower. And who was some of your table mates at the time? Do you recall?
As I recall, Billy Sherwood, Antoinette, Charlie Boy, Martha. I think Frank Talbot for a while was one of the table mates. You know, some of those things like that that are just incidental are rather difficult to remember because
Well,
that has
some
been,
might have
that
made an
has been
impression.
50 years ago.
Some might have made an impression upon you.
One of them did.
Yes.
You know, very definite impression.
And did you do any winter sports out on the campus during all the snow we have in the wintertime?
Some of the most unusual winter sports. When we could sneak out at night, which we had to do after bed check, go up on the side of the hill and
KU.
go up on the side of the
Oh,
hill
Oh,
here
dear.
close to school before some of it has been leveled off and everything. There used to be a pretty good sized bank out on the west side down where Harper Valley is, and we could do a lot of sliding, tobogganing, or whatever, and of all the equipment, garbage can, lids, pieces of cardboard, anything you could get a hold on to slide, and we'd have some tremendous times. Of course, usual horseplay, snowballing. One thing that I will never forget, we were sneaking out one night, bitter cold, and the old buildings, the 3-story buildings, as you might recall, the old winding slide-down type fire escapes. Well, in order to get out quietly and not get caught by the advisors or whoever was on duty during the evening, would go up to the 3rd floor and then work our way down by using feet and hands as brakes on the side of that fire escape to get down and get out, and then worry about getting back in. And I never know who it was. I don't think anybody ever knew, or he might not have been around long. Turned the hose on us one night when we were all in that tunnel going down, and bitter cold and wet. Was a mess.
you didn't freeze, slide down the ice.
We
then,
almost
did you?
did.
Did you have detail work when you was here?
Oh, yes. Yes,
So
indeed.
what was your fantastic detail to do?
Well, I didn't have detail as such for a while. When they had just reconditioned and reopened the shack, and I'd had some experience. My mother and I used to run a small restaurant. So they sort of detailed me over there. Then they decided they would compensate the workers in the shack. And that was a real windfall for me because rather impoverished family at the time. We didn't have any money or anything, and 15 cents an hour. But by working there, that was considered our work detail also. and I didn't have anything else in the way of detail. Then later on, they decided they'd cut down on the monetary part of it and just make it a detailed assignment. So part of the time that I worked over there was detailed.
Mhm. You never did get any demerits like some of us girls, did you, for doing something you shouldn't and have to work out your time shining the halls or something?
I have hauled manure in the rose garden. I've dug weeds down in the vegetable garden on Saturdays and a few other things like that.
To compensate for your demerits, as they called them.
It wasn't,
I used to get a lot of demerits because I'd do something that I shouldn't be doing, and then I'd have to shine the Winona halls.
my main thing of doing what I shouldn't be doing and getting caught at it would be to sneak off and go to town, go to show or something, and then naturally we walked up and down Massachusetts Street going and coming, but then we liable to be walking downtown or coming out of the show and come face to face with Leonard Fraser, the Keokuk advisor or somebody. Naturally, it was
Well, we did get permission to go sometime to the showdown. We used to pay a nickel.
Oh,
to get
yes.
one of the shows.
Yes, indeed.
That was a big treat.
Big treat. I often think about when one of the old shows that had those weekly serial episodes.
Yes.
Oh, it was just almost a crime we couldn't get down there on Saturday and see what was going to happen on the cliffhanger that day.
Martha, you still don't want to come up and talk with your better half?
But it was one big happy family,
It was.
and I don't think the children today are any happier than we were, or even as happy, if they can really appreciate it as much as we did, what we had.
About how many students was here when you were here?
There were around 1,200. Sometime end up the end of the year by around 1,000, but it was a heavy enrollment
Coming from all over.
everywhere.
Did you have many from Alaska at that time?
No,
I don't think they had.
not too many.
I wonder. Is Dave still here? Timing this time, but I
James
think
Lee
we can.
scheduled a golf tournament. I mean, you know, they'd have walked out. I thought I guess that's what they left. Did Clyde go too?
Yeah, they went. They had a tea time.
Tea time,
or
I know.
something, Yeah.
I know.
So they left.
Yeah.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
All right.
Okay.
Hello, David Hearn.
How are you?
When were you here at Haskell, David?
I was a student here at Haskell in 1954 through 1958. I'm from New York. I'm an Iroquois Mohawk, Iroquois Nation Mohawk tribe. And I was one of the last Indian students to be admitted from the state of New York to Haskell Institute, or Haskell High School more specifically, when it was a high school in 1954.
Really? Where do they go now, most of them? Locally?
Well, I think the state or the federal government felt like New York's educational system as it regarded, the state's Indians. They felt like it was adequate. Indians were, being well taken care of. And I agree with that. I think the move helped, just opened up some enrollment space here in Lawrence for students who were really needed, the educational opportunities that Haskell had to offer.
Did you take their commercial?
No.
Here?
No, I went in 1958. I went over to Benedictine. Actually, at the time, it was St. Benedict's as a freshman, and I spent 4 years there on a football scholarship.
And that's where you met your wife?
Well, yes. My wife is a graduate of St. Mary's in Leavenworth, more specifically Xavier, which is sort of a little suburb, the Leavenworth area. She's a graduate of St. Mary's College, and she's a school teacher.
So when you graduated from Haskell and after your college, then what did you do?
Well, actually, I went to Canada for 2 seasons or 2 seasons and a half, played ball up there for the Ottawa Rough Riders. And then Uncle Sam came along and said,
How about you?
give me the football and here's your shotgun. And I spent a little bit of time in the armed services.
What branch of service did you?
Army.
Army. Did you see any overseas duties?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. It was all in the
States.
local 48, right.
While you were here at Haskell, who were your instructors?
Well, there are several that are memorable, and I think Tony Coffin sort of comes to mind as being one of the more influential. Tony, of course, was a coach, and he was a coach for all sports: football, basketball, and track. And I participated in all three sports. And he was, oddly enough, he was a baseball player at Kansas, Kansas University. But baseball was really not an interscholastic sport in Kansas when I was here, so he concentrated on those, on those sports that were approved.
And Tony went to Haskell also.
Oh yes, yes. And of course, as far as instructors are concerned, May Manus, he was retired English department. Marguerite Cosgriff, retired English department. Rupert Thompson, who also overlapped as basketball coach. He was English department, and he is, as I understand, just retired from the Indian Service in Muskogee or somewhere in Oklahoma. And
did you compete in sports at the different schools in the state?
oh, that was everybody knew Haskell in the 50s, in the 40s and 50s and early 60s from their athletic teams. I was a contemporary of Billy Mills, and the experiences we had in track. Back to Tony Coffin, he was successful really in all in all coaching phases, but he was most successful as a track coach, and of course most successful in generating milers. Of course, Billy was state champion 1956 and 1957.
Haskell was known for its football and football players and teams previously. Do you think Tony had a lot to do with bringing in the track?
Oh yes, yes. There were if you played football, then you were a track man also. Tony, he didn't let you slough off. He knew what spring training meant. Today, football in high school and college, it's so sophisticated that you play year-round. But back then, you didn't have spring football. But track was just as good. And if you played football for Tony, when track season came around, you were going to do something.
You ran track. What was some of your averages?
Well, let me see, without bragging. As a sophomore, Tony decided he'd always make a judgment for you. He had an instinct for for determining what your possible what you could excel in. And he had Billy Mills pegged right from the start. He knew Billy as a freshman, as a 110 or 115 pound freshman, was going to have some distance possibilities. And of course, that's how it turned out. Billy just year after year just got better and better and better, and got better all the way to the 10,000 meters in Tokyo. But back to my performances, I ran the quarter as a sophomore. As a freshman, I did a little bit of everything. But as a sophomore, Tony decided that's where my potential would lay, and I ran the open quarter, ran the quarter on relays, and ran the 220 as well. And then my last year at Haskell, I was a half miler. But being a 220 man and being a quarter man as a freshman, sophomore, and junior just really set the stage for being a state half-mile champion in 1958.
Were there any girls at that time in
Well,
track?
oh yes, yeah. There were, well, no competition, no.
They didn't compete.
That was right.
Mhm.
That was, you
Well,
know,
did they compete with
that,
you?
No, see, 58. 58 was pre-civil rights era,
Mhm.
you know. So the girls basically had to wear skirts and sit on the sidelines.
And root for the
Right.
milers and so
And of
forth.
course, as far as the girls were concerned, you know, Solon Giers was the superintendent here at the time, and he didn't let you, you know, there wasn't much competition. I mean, it was, you know, the girls were on one side of the campus and the boys on the other. And I think 6 o'clock on weeknights or 7 o'clock on weeknights, it was, you know, the old barbed wire went up. And
You had to stay on your side,
right.
stay on there.
Friday night, it was a little different story. You know, you could sneak around and, you know, maybe get your girlfriend behind the bushes and give her a peck on the cheek. But that was the extent of it.
Well, didn't you have the Saturday night dances still?
Oh, yeah.
At that time?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
In the gymnasium,
Mhm.
in the 2 gymnasiums, the girls and the boys, and of course both structures are still there.
Yeah.
Right here, and you know, I went in. That boys' gymnasium was where all the basketball games are played as well. So a lot of memories there, basketball and.
Did you play basketball?
Oh yes. Uh-huh.
Well, during your time here in the 50s, was there any other boys that got as far or went near as far as Billy Mills?
Well, a lot of kids went on to school, but I can't think of anybody that really made the contribution to American sports that he has.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of kids that went to Emporia, College of Emporia, and that school is now closed. Apparently it just became a part of Emporia State College or Emporia State Teachers. A lot of kids went to smaller schools where they could compete. But Billy went from Haskell to Kansas U. And I think...
And then to Tokyo.
Yes. Kansas was really the springboard.
Mm-hmm.
What he learned at Kansas was the springboard for what he did in the Marine Corps and eventually in Tokyo.
After you finished school and the service, then what did you decide to do?
Well, after I got out of the Army, I went to work. I decided I may want to live a little closer to relatives, so I started job hunting in the New York area, Syracuse, New York specifically. And I went to work for the Crucible Steel Company of America, which is headquartered in Pittsburgh, but they had a plant in Syracuse, and I worked there for roughly a year. But I had known my wife. I had met my wife while I was still a student at St. Benedict's, and we corresponded, and our relationship lasted 5 years before we decided to get married. But I knew that St. Benedict's was not known at all in New York State. Really, nobody knew anything about the school, so it meant something I felt like it meant something on a job application if your potential employers were familiar with your, your background, more specifically the school you went to. So I left New York and went to work in Kansas City for Armco Steel, and there I did a little job hopping. Went from Armco to Sun Oil, and I'm still in the oil industry today with Nalco Chemical, which is it's a specialty chemical company that's headquartered in Chicago. And I have always worked for their Petroleum Services Division for 18 years.
Now you're in Midland, Texas,
right? By way of Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota. I'm in Texas.
And for things that you're interested in Haskell and you're interested in the alumni, and you was just put on the board on the foundation this past weekend as a director.
Right, you're right.
And so what are your contributions to Haskell?
Well, I think with the memories I have of my alma mater and the contributions they've made, I think, to the general Indian population. It's been good overall. And I think the opportunities today for the American Indian student, I think, are enormous. There's all kinds of educational opportunities, and I try to make an effort along the lines of scholarship. You know, when I went to, I'm going to take you back to my enrollment over at Atchison. When I made that trip from New York back to Kansas in the fall of 1958 to enroll at St. Benedict's, I had a suitcase of clothes and $150. And I had no idea, and an athletic scholarship. I had no idea, once that $150 ran out, where I was going to get any more. But today, Indian students, if they're capable, they don't have that worry. And I think for Indians that are in the mainstream of free enterprise, I think we've got an obligation to provide opportunities, help provide opportunities. College expenses today are, you know, they can run up to, some schools, they can run up to $10,000 a year.
That's true.
But I think if you can provide $500 or $1,000 to a capable Indian student, it's got to make you feel better.
That's true. I look back and think the advantages today that the student even here at Haskell has over what we had in many respects, especially to the, I guess, to the sports individual. Look at their fine sports complex. And I don't recall of even seeing any water here, let alone a swimming pool.
Right.
When we was here.
Oh, yes.
And the fantastic sports complex they have.
Yes.
That advantage.
I think there's opportunity if these kids, I mean, it's a good feeling when you come back here every year and somebody is enrolled at KU or somebody is enrolled at the University of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the scholarship, the two recipients of the Tony Coffin Tony Coffin Scholarship are going to KU, which is Tony's alma mater. But that's
the exposure they have here, or just right now what we're sitting in, their video department.
Oh, sure.
The fine library they
The only
have.
thing I ever saw when I was when I was a student here was a Kodak, a Brownie Kodak.
Mm-hmm.
Haskell has come a long way.
And their library, when I was here, we had in the basement dusty room, and I don't think anyone checked books out because it was too dusty and dirty to take
Right.
out. But things have come a long way.
Oh, absolutely.
And the equipment they have to work with,
Mm-hmm.
their study areas and learning center, it's all fabulous. And we didn't have a choice as to what we ate either
Right.
in their cafeteria.
Oh, yes. That's changed. I noticed that at the breakfast yesterday morning.
Yes.
You know, it wasn't it wasn't cornflakes and watered down milk.
Or canned milk.
Right.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell about Haskell, of some incident or something that sticks out in your memory as
Well,
something?
I'm gonna back to Billy Mills. There's an experience that I shared in that I think since Billy won the 10,000 meters, but I'll really tell you when Billy Mills became known in the Midwest, in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Nebraska. Glenn Cunningham was a Kansas miler in the 30s, and he represented, I think, the U.S. at the Olympic Games in '36 in Berlin. He didn't win the 1500, but I think he won third. But everybody knew him. He was a legend in the annals of Kansas sports. Glenn Cunningham's record for the high school mile, I think, stood for 20 years or more. And it was about 4:23. which at the time was the mystic 4-minute mile to Kansas high school milers. And we went over to Manhattan for the indoor meet in 1957. And I think Billy had run a 4:25 as a junior. And he had prepared thoroughly that fall as a senior running cross country. But we watched his performances before that indoor. That was the big, all of the media focused their attention on the indoor. That was the big interstate, you know, or the big Kansas State interscholastic meet. All classes, AA, Class A, Class B. And the night that Billy ran up there, I think the Haskell coaching staff, including Tony Coffin, had a gut feeling that this was the night. I need some water here.
Okay.
Talking about this famous event. But Billy had run easily about 3 or 4 days prior a 4:28 mile right here out here at the track,
Okay.
and that was outdoors in March. So the you know, the conditions weren't, you know, really all that good. And I felt like he just cruised to a 4:28 mile. And there were no coaches there. One of our team managers was clocking him. And I thought, you know, if he can just jog around there in time of 4:28, I think the record is, you know, it's approachable. Well, that's exactly what happened there in Manhattan that night. And our Hearn Fieldhouse seats about 14 or 15,000 people. And it's got a dirt track. And the mile event came around about 8 o'clock that night. And Billy's time, as I recall, I think he broke Cunningham's record by about a half a second. And seemed to do it leisurely. Nobody pushed him. And I think I've been around a lot of athletic events and describe a Hearn Fieldhouse. Now, every school in Kansas is invited. And, you know, there probably were 50 schools, AA schools, 50 Class A schools, maybe 30 or 35 Class B schools. But when he crossed the finish line and the unofficial time, they announced the unofficial time, 4:23 something, it just, you know, it just kind of stunned every participant and every spectator there. But after the record was broken, nothing else mattered. And Billy was the center of attention.
From then on.
The place just teemed. It just teemed with excitement. You know, the glamour event in the sport of track, the mile. You know, the glamour event in Kansas, held by a glamour personality in Glenn Cunningham, was broken by the Billy Mills.
That was great.
It was, you know, I was a junior at the time, and I had a chance to just kind of sit back and take it all in. But I'll never forget it.
Did he really set an example for you after that?
Oh yes, Billy was one of the campus leaders, president of the student council, president of his class, and he wasn't a carouser. He was aggressive. He had a, you know, he had a mind of his own. He really did.
He knew what he wanted.
Oh, I think you have to be that way to compete in track, because it's a, you know, requires individuality. You go out and you do things on your own. You train on your own, and that's 24 hours a day. You get your rest. You eat properly. You know, and of course, when we were in school, the worst thing you could get into was you know, a bottle of Budweiser, or if they sold Budweiser in Kansas, you had to stay off. You know, you had to be true to your training. But Billy was an example, and I think Tony was an example, and I think the Haskell's track teams overall were examples. We went to meets. Tony wanted you to behave yourself, and we did that. We went out and we performed, and we performed well, and made a good impression for
Haskell.
right.
Mhm. Was there any other incident that comes to mind?
Well, there's a few that I don't really want to repeat on camera.
Well, that might be the fun ones.
You know, boys will be boys. We just, it was brutal sometimes with freshmen.
Was you allowed off campus anytime, or was it a fairly closed campus the time you were here?
It was a fairly cloistered atmosphere. There wasn't really much you could do. They watched. You could smoke. That was one bad habit you were allowed. Drinking.
In the smoking room, though.
Right. Or actually, I think you could smoke, you know, in and around campus. There were spots for it. There no cars, no access to cars, and you didn't. Solon GRs was tough about alcohol. I mean, it was kids on Saturday afternoon would sneak downtown Lawrence and buy what's the beverage that doesn't leave a
vodka?
Vodka, that's right. Girls and boys would do that. Buy a little pint, you know, to where you could hide it in your purse or hide it in your back pocket. But boy, these advisors were, you know, they were astute at, you know, looking you in the eye and seeing the.
Who was one or two of your advisors?
Well, Pete Shepard wasn't. He was. I think he was sort of dean of men. But I'll always remember one ex-Marine by the name of Ben Beaver. Ben, you know, he until recently I think his health started faltering. But Ben came in here just typically military. I mean, you did everything according to the book. And John Ketcher was another one. They had a good, Ayers had a knack for selecting the right kind of